Hello and welcome to Kat's Kitchen. We are in the summer season, which is the fire element, and it manifests in our energy and vitality, and it's linked with the summer. And it has four, not two meridians like the rest of the elements. This element is special and has four meridians connected to it. We have the heart and small intestine, and we have the heart protector and triple heater or triple burner, and that's the one that we work on the most in our Wednesday classes. So our heart also in Chinese medicine houses our shen or mind. So for me, I think a healthy heart is a clear mind. And the fire element, it provides us with the ability for affection and to love. So I'm going to show you how to make a chocolate, beetroot and ginger cake. You will need two items or equipment, a 20 centimetre cake tin or something of similar size. I've pre-buttered it because I don't have any parchment paper. So if you don't want to butter, please use parchment paper. The other thing I'm going to use is not my arms for elbow grease this time. I'm going to use a food processor. If you don't have a food processor, it's completely fine, but you will need some sort of hand blender or machine to blitz the beetroot up when we get to that part. So, our hearty love cake. I'll just run through some of the food energetics and why it's so good for you. Who knew that cake could be so zen? So, chocolate is our energy boost, and it will give you a nice amount of energy with no dip afterwards. Kind of like coffee, it has caffeine, but you won't get the after effect of a low dip from coffee. Cocoa has a huge amount of plant chemicals like iron and magnesium and zinc, and one called Flavanols. So they're known to protect the heart, and Flavanols support the production, if I can remember right, of Nitric Oxide, which is the inner cell lining of a blood vessel, and it also improves blood flow, and thereby it lowers blood pressure. Cocoa also reduces the risk of heart disease, high blood pressure and inflammation. The other food that we're going to put in the cake is a lot of eggs. The humble egg is actually a yang food, and it's full of vitamin D. So in our wonderful lockdown, if you've been at home for a while, this cake's going to be great. The other thing I'm going to add in, which isn't often put into a beetroot chocolate cake, is ginger. Now, ginger is amazing in traditional Chinese medicine, the energetics of this. So it releases exterior and disperses cold in the body. So any external pernicious influences, cold, damp, that enter your body and that don't come from your body, ginger expels them. It also promotes qi circulation and has a strong effect on your lungs, your spleen and your stomach. So it's really good for colds, coughs and any digestive problems. And beetroot, let's not forget that, because that's one of the main ingredients in the cake. It's neutral in terms of food energetics, hot and cold. So if you're yin and you're worried about this cake affecting your cold, don't worry about it. And the same with yang, it doesn't affect the heat inside your body. Also, what it does do is it nourishes your blood and benefits your heart and liver. It encourages qi and blood circulation, and it lubricates the intestines. So it reduces constipation, irritability, and it's also an anti-inflammatory on the body. So without further ado, I'll just run through the list of things that you'll need to make this delicious cake. So I have 200 grams of butter, I have 200 grams of chocolate. I've mainly gone for dark chocolate. I've added a little milk chocolate in there as well, just to make a smoother texture to the flavour in the cake. The higher percentage of cocoa, the more the cake will have higher levels of flavanols, which supports our heart, which I explained earlier. You'll also need 250 grams of beetroot. I've gone for the pre-cooked beetroot, so there's less prep time and less mess. If you prefer, you can get raw beetroot, boil it and peel it, ready to put into your cake. I have 5 eggs and sugar. I've gone for a light brown sugar. You can also use coconut sugar, and I have lessened the sugar and I've put 200 grams. You'll also need a teaspoon of baking powder. You can use gluten-free baking powder if you'd like a gluten-free cake. And 240 grams of ground almonds. I've also put some flaked almonds in there, but this is 240 in total. You'll also need a pinch of salt, and then I've added to this cake some ginger, because as well as it being a hearty, earthy kind of feeling in the cake, I wanted to pack it with a punch and to give it a bit of yang energy as well. I used roughly about this amount of ginger. I didn't measure it, but hopefully you can see roughly how much ginger I've got. Before we start melting anything, I need to put the oven on to preheat to 190 degrees Celsius. So let's turn the oven on ready. About there. Yep. And I've prepared a bain-marie. So I've got a small pan with some boiling water, and I'm going to float a bowl in the top. And that's our bain-marie. Now I'm going to take the butter and the chocolate, and I'm going to add them to the bowl. So I have gone away and cut the butter up. I'm also going to add that to the chocolate. Okay. And I'm just going to gently let this melt on a low heat. We're slowly getting the butter and chocolate melting. What we want to do is to keep the heat quite low so that we don't scald the chocolate and burn it. And the other thing is, in the bain-marie, we really want to make sure that the bowl is floating, that there's just enough water in the bottom, that it doesn't overflow. But top tip, we want to make sure the bowl doesn't touch the bottom of the pan. We're almost there, and then once this is done, we'll take it off the heat and leave to gently cool on the side. So we're going to now take our pre-cooked beetroot, and if you've got raw beetroot, you cook it and then peel it and you get it to something like this, or you can cheat like me with the pre-cooked vacuum-packed beetroot. If you don't have a food processor or hand blender, you can also grate the beetroot as well. I don't know, you could try it raw. It could be quite nice, raw grated beetroot. So add this to the food processor, and we're going to blitz this until it's quite a smooth paste. Great, so now the beetroot has come to quite a smooth paste. Unless you have it grated, it will be fine once cooked in the oven. So once we've done that, we then want to add all of the eggs, 5 eggs. Get all of that lovely vitamin D into our bodies. Make sure, yes, I've done it. I've got a little bit of shell in there. See if I can get that out before mixing. Then we can add the sugar. And baking powder, or gluten-free baking powder, and I'm going to do a flat teaspoon, level teaspoon I mean. Also going to add the ginger to pack a punch to this hearty, earthy cake. Then we blitz this up all together. That's looking pretty good. I want to give it one last huge turbo boost to make it nice and smooth. And it'll also add some air into the eggs. Great. So that wonderful buttery chocolate mix that we made on the bain-marie should be much cooler than it was before. So we're going to add this to this mixture. I'll get a spatula to make sure I get all of the chocolate out of the bowl, or you can just have a nice spoonful for yourself whilst the cake is cooking. And I'm going to gently mix that in as well. The last thing that goes in the cake mixture is our ground almonds. I put a little bit of flaked almonds in there and a pinch of salt as well. So I'll just remove the lid again. You can also do this all by hand. It's very cheaty, quick kind of non-elbow grease way of doing things. But you know, if you've got loads of things going on at home, or you want to go out, anyway, it's just much quicker. And a tiny pinch of salt. And then we can blitz this up all together as well. Great, so that's all blended together. It's looking super delicious. And now we get our cake tin, and I have covered it in butter, or you can use parchment or greaseproof paper to go in. Because it's a pop bottom on the cake tin, I want to make sure it's in so the liquid doesn't come out everywhere. Yeah, I think that's vacuumed in nicely. So let's pour this amazing cake mix into our cake tin. Okay. Well, it smells very delicious. I think I'll probably try a little bit. I have to sample before cooking, and I want to make sure it's okay before I let you guys know about this recipe, obviously. So I'm just going to scoop the rest of the mixture out. There we are. And we're going to put that in the oven for 35 to 45 minutes. And what we want to do is to make sure it's definitely cooked is when you go and check on the cake, if it's not wobbly on the top, it's probably cooked. You can check it with a skewer to see if it comes clean, but because it's quite a moist cake, I usually do the wobble test on this particular one. So into the oven, and I'm going to check it in about 30 minutes, and it might need another 15. So into this preheated oven. And I'll come back to give it the wobble test in half an hour. It's a tough job, but somebody had to do it. So I'll take it out. As you can see, it's slightly wobbly, but by the time it cools, it will firm up. And we want to keep it in the tin for about 5 minutes before attempting to take it out. So now I'm decorating the cake with some grated dark chocolate and some flaked almonds. It has been in the oven for 45 minutes to make sure it's completely cooked. I think this one's a bit longer to cook. And there we have it. It's still slightly cooling off. Here's a hearty love cake. You know, who knew cake could be so zen?
Well, talking of the fire element giving to be able to love, here we are, Basti. I think the flame's blown out. Have some cake.
Thank you very much.
And I've heard that it's your birthday next week.
It is.
So happy early birthday.
Thank you very much. And I hear that it is also your birthday, Kat.
It is, in 2 weeks.
So an early birthday to you too.
Oh, thank you.
Perfect.
What's the verdict?
Looks good. Delicious.